Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Oakdale City Council regular meeting, March 22nd, 2022. Kathy, would you do roll call, please?
Councilmember Ingebrigtson.
Here.
Councilmember Olson.
Here.
Councilmember Swedberg.
Here.
Councilmember Zabel.
Here.
Mayor Reinke.
Here. Please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilors, in front of us, we have the agenda that was in our packet. After review, would somebody make a motion to approve or modify, please?
Do we have any changes? Chris?
Mayor Reinke, council members, there is one, the only change is under tree board. They did meet on 3/15, so there will be a report under that agenda item. So the new one you had at your table says just a report there. That's the only change.
Actually, there'd be one additional. The Environmental Management Commission did not meet.
They did not.
They had lack of quorum, so
Yeah,
they didn't meet.
canceled. There was meeting minute, I mean, she just sent out an update.
Last night? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
A couple days ago.
yeah,
So,
a couple days, yep.
Okay.
so I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with those two changes.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
And there's a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the meeting agenda is approved. In our packet, we had two sets of meetings, one from the workshop, March 8th, and another from the regular meeting, March 8th. Taking the workshop first, upon review, councilors, did you see anything that needed corrections? Could I have a motion then, please?
So moved.
Is a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those meeting minutes are approved as presented. The second set of meeting minutes was from our regular meeting on March 8th, 2022. Upon review, were there any corrections? Could I have a motion then, please?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those meeting minutes are approved as presented. Next up on the agenda is the time that we call open forum. Open forum is a chance where anybody that's in the audience would like to comment on anything that's going on in the city can do so. So to do that, we ask the person to come up to the podium, state your name and address, and then share your thoughts. Open forum is really not a time for interactive dialogue, or it's a chance for you to share something that might be on your mind, and then we'll direct it to staff or take another action that's appropriate. So is there anybody here that would like to comment on anything going on in the city? Commissioner Kowalski, good evening.
Thank you. It's always good to be here. Stan Karwoski, Washington County Commissioner, representing District 2 and the primary, the largest city I represent is Oakdale. So it's nice seeing the council, mayor, and staff. I don't have nothing to report, but the nice thing, there's been a tradition of our Washington County Commissioners to get to recognize people that have really made a mark in the community. Usually we don't acknowledge elected people, maybe when you retire, so that's why I'll say great job to each one of you. But we don't give them to elected people, and we really don't give them to staff either. But when they leave, that's a different subject. So we have Brian Bachmeyer back here, and I'm going to just say a few words, then I'll read this Commissioner Service Award, along with Mayor Reinke, and you have all. I've served 21 years of elected office, and Mayor Reinke close the same. Great performer in Oakdale. Now in the last 6 years, I've seen it from the county perspective. I actually witnessed it as mayor and city council on how he interacts throughout the county and how well respected he is. And it's not only getting public works done in the city, roads done in the city, but there's so many connections to the county. He's been a valuable resource. He gets ultimate compliments with all our city engineering and public works. Everything from expertise on plowing to some of the new bridge things like 4th Street Bridge, the goal line, the major roads. He's just a valuable resource to the county. So with that said, plus what I've always respected about Brian is he, Public Works Director and city engineer, he's lived in the city. He wouldn't have to do that, but he really stands behind the product. So I've got this Commissioner Service Award from Washington County on behalf of a grateful county. The undersigned commissioners hereby extend recognition and appreciation to Oakdale's City Engineer and Public Works Director, Brian Bachmeyer, for 32-plus years of outstanding service in support of Washington County's mission. Signed by myself, Stan Karwoski, Washington County Commissioner District 2, on March 22nd, 2022. So, Brian, maybe, I know you're always in the background, but you got to come up and accept this.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Complete surprise.
Oh, you got to say a few words.
You're a friend.
His look was priceless. You went, what?
But, well, thank you very much. It's always been a pleasure working with the county and obviously with the city. So thank you very much. I appreciate it and looking forward to continuing to work with the county and the city in any capacity I can.
Okay.
So, thank you very much.
Brian, real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You been golfing yet, Brian?
No, I have.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak at the open forum? And is there anybody else? I think we'll go ahead then and take up the next set of actions, which are the consensus motions. Councilors, in front of us tonight, we have consensus motions A through I. Upon review, are any of them, would you like any of them to be pulled? Could I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to approve consensus motions A through I as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those consensus motions are approved as presented. Thank you. And Commissioner Kowalski, before you run out, just want to say thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
A great award, and we appreciate the service that you provide also. So,
Yeah.
good night.
Yeah. Good night.
Next up on our agenda is the advisory boards and commissions. This is a time when we get to talk about the different commissions that are doing work on our behalf and some of our liaison work with those commissions. First one we have is the Economic Development Commission, and we're going to go right on because there was no meeting. The second one was the Environmental Management Commission. They were scheduled to meet on March 21st. Councilmember Zabel is our liaison for that commission, and we understand that there's a quorum. People were busy and they weren't able to meet, so that was canceled. The next one was the Planning Commission. There is no meeting on that one. And then the next one was the Parks and Recreation Commission. Our Councilmember Ingebrigtson is the liaison. Jake?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the meeting. I had a work issue come up last minute, and I apologize for that to the commission. But two main things they discussed. First of all, they narrowed down how would I articulate this? The biggest need for a playground. They discussed that and narrowed it down to 3 parks. And the other thing that they discussed, and by the way, I don't remember the 3 parks. I know one of them was Eberly. I don't remember the other 2. And I had notes and left them at work. And then the other issue they discussed is the electrical at the ball fields here. I think that there were a couple of different options as far as how to run the conduit. They discussed that a bit. So one is a little bit safer, but one's more, or not safer, but safer to install, and the other one is more cost effective, if I remember right. So
Very good. Thank you, Counselor. The next one was the tree board, where I'm the liaison for that group. There was a meeting on the 15th of March. I also had to call in with a absence. And yet, looking at the information that Lauren shared with me afterwards, it seemed like the largest item was just the continued planning for the Arbor Day
Yes.
tree giveaway.
Yeah.
And that's come along really well. The reservation lists, the reservation slots are on the web, and
Are they out there now?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Nope, you're looking at me funny.
I'm looking at Chris.
I don't think
didn't
they're out there.
Quite yet.
Yeah.
Maybe I misinterpreted by seeing the proposed, and I thought that was committed.
The announcement was out there, yes.
But I don't think the time slots are out there yet.
No, I'm sure that when Lori gets back, we'll
Yeah.
get those out there.
Yeah.
Very good. So the next up on the agenda is staff reports, and I think we'll jump into the engineering one. And this is the approval of the plans and specifications for a city project, the 2022 street improvements. Good evening, Mr. Bachmeyer.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So good to see all of you. Just here to answer any particular questions that council may have. This was the project that was initiated in October. The feasibility report was presented to the council in December, and the public hearing was held in January, at which time the council did adopt the assessment role and authorize the preparation of plans and specs. Those plans and specifications have been completed, and it is now appropriate for the council to consider approving those plans and authorizing the advertisement and collection of bids for the project. The one thing I will note, there is the inclusion of the overlay that was in our capital improvement program on 4th Street as well, from 3rd over to Inwood, so that is also included in the project. With that, I'd stand for any questions that council may have.
Councilors, anything? One question I have is if you'd talk a little bit about this speed limit
Yes.
and that process and the reasons for the consideration of the change.
Certainly. Just for a little context, prior to the improvement hearing that we had in January, we were contacted by the Oak Meadow Senior Housing property manager about any opportunities to improve pedestrian accommodations. And obviously, we took a look at if a sidewalk could be installed on the south side, and for cost reasons, it could not be included in the project. As you know, this was, we're maxing out on our state aid funds, and the special assessments were at the minimum threshold where they had to be. Any additional improvements would have resulted in increase in the assessment amounts or possibly delay the project. But the one option that we did want to explore, and that is something we can come back to the council with, is providing a pedestrian crossing at their driveway to get over to the bikeway, pedway that is on the north side of 4th Street. And the current speed limit of 45 miles per hour precludes that option. That is not something that can be considered when a road is over 40 miles per hour. So we saw this as an opportunity to take a look at that new legislative authority where cities had the ability to establish and evaluate their speed limit based on an engineering study. And so we did have a traffic engineer take a look at it, and he came back with the conclusion that it would be appropriate to reduce the speed to make it more consistent with some of the other collector roadways that we have in our community where we have 30 mile per hour speed limits. Also taking into consideration the future development that is going to be occurring along there. Tonight's project that you're going to be hearing about and the other areas around on that property. And then also the Gold Line improvements from Helmo over to Hudson Boulevard and 120. So with those things in mind, it was his recommendation that the city consider establishing the speed limit at 35 miles per hour along that corridor. And so this is an opportunity for the council to consider that. Certainly, if that's not something you want to do, that's fine as well. But we saw it as an opportunity to address a need that was expressed by one of the abutting property owners and to evaluate how the new state statute allowed cities to evaluate speed limits.
Thank you. So councilors, I jumped around a little bit.
I ask a follow-up to that? So I've also heard from Oak Meadows about their concerns about pedestrian access, and it sounds like the crosswalk is the most feasible. Is the plan for that? Is there any sort of, flashing indicators or, site improvements to accentuate a crosswalk being there? I think, what we've done in the past for like AERC, where we added that flashing pedestrian light. Is that our current vision for, adding in that access for Oak Meadows, or is that a different conversation later?
It was not to be included with this project, but this project would not preclude that future improvement to do so. The one item that we are looking at including with this project is a center island refuge in the common left turn lane, similar to what the county has on 10th Street by Granada Avenue. You can recall what they have there. So that is something that we are considering including as part of this project, and that would complement a rapid flash and beacon system if that would be pursued at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go back to this the approval of the plans and specifications then. And I kind of jumped around a little bit. But the ask of us tonight is to waive the reading and adopt the resolution approving the plans and specs. Councilors, do you have any questions on that? Can I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to waive the reading and adopt Resolution 2022 approving the plans and specifications for City Project 2022-01, 22 street improvements, and authorize the advertisement for bids.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes as presented. Thank you. This other than we have the motion to, or the idea to reduce the speed limit or establish a speed limit of 35 on Hudson Boulevard, Hadley Avenue, 4th Street between the western city limits and Inwood Avenue. Councilors, are there questions about that? Further questions? Could I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion waiving and adopt resolution number 2022, establishing a speed limit of 35 miles per hour on Hudson, Hadley, 4th Street North from the westerly city limits to Inwood Avenue, and authorizing the posting of the speed limit with the gold line and I'm guessing that's CIP 2022-01 improvements.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then that motion passes as presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next up on the agenda is time with our community developer, community development director. Good evening, Mr. Gitzlaw. And Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, and I'll defer to Aaron for the presentation, just making sure it's all loaded.
He's got the important job tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. Mayor, members of council, happy to be here tonight to discuss the Impact Apartments project, a very large and potentially signature project for the city. I did put together a few slides for the benefit of the audience and as well as just to organize the conversation a little bit. I'll point out that the applicants are here with their team of engineers to help answer your questions as well. Good, now I can see I was like, I can't see the presentation, so I don't know where I am. A little bit of background here, which I know you heard before at the work session that you had back in November. But the proposal is for a 321-unit, 7-story apartment building in the Helmo Station planned unit development area. There are a few requests associated with that project. They're tonight requesting a preliminary plat approval, a variance for noise, and that's noise coming into the site from the highway, and also approval of the site plan, which is part of how the planned unit developments in the city work. There are several deviations to the PUD that are up for discussion as well as part of the site plan approval. We have deviations requested for density. The proposal of 321 units calculates out to be about 145 units per acre. In the Helmo Station PUD, there's a maximum of 50. A height of 7 stories is being proposed, where 6 is the maximum that is allowed. There are lighting levels that exceed the ordinance requirement at the property line, and that's really due to the fact that we have zero setback building on most sides, and if you have a wall pack on the building, it's going to exceed your lighting standard. Rear setback deviation required because of the stormwater pond that's located on the site. And then finally, a couple of things. Class 1 building materials, you have a requirement for 70% Class 1 on the ground floor. The applicants are proposing a little bit less than that, 63%. And they've brought, I have to appreciate the large sample that they have brought in. When they mentioned to me that they were going to bring a sample of the siding, I was not expecting this, so you all have to like touch it on your way out. And then finally, an increase in the maximum allowed parking by 62 spaces, and I'll get into a little bit more of an explanation of that in just a moment. Okay, so first of all, on the preliminary plat, we found that the plat meets all of the requirements. It does meet the concept for the Helmo Station PUD that was laid out. There are a few conditions that we recommended with the preliminary plat approval, not the least of which is entering into a development agreement. As you can see from this site, there's development is going to be fairly complicated. We've got the property that is owned by Norhart, tonight's applicant. The larger area is owned by Scannell, another party, and there are a lot of public improvements that need to happen surrounding this site in order to enable the apartment development. And so there will have to be coordination between the two private owners there. There will also need to be coordination with the Gold Line partners for the improvements along Helmo. So that development agreement is a recommended condition. Park dedication is another issue. We have the calculations for required park dedication in your packet. There's a combination of either fee or land or some combination thereof. It was one of staff's recommendations that due to the large influx of people in this area, the city would not want to just take in money. You would probably want some land to go with that too. I will point out that there is a parcel, and I'll show you the map here in a moment, that is planned for park use in this PUD, so that could help with some of that park dedication, but that would be negotiated as part of the development agreement. There are two outlots that need to be combined and dedicated to the city. And again, coordination with Gold Line on making sure that the right-of-way is the appropriate width. The plat process is the time to do that. Looking at the site plan, this is where we got into the details of reviewing all of the design, building setbacks and all of that sort of thing, and where the PUD deviations came in. I will get into those deviations in just a second, but the conditions that we recommended for approval of the site plan were, again, coordination with Gold Line partners on the improvements within the right-of-way. As you'll see when we get to the traffic study, we needed some clarification on the location of turning lanes, a few additional trees. One thing that I wanted to speak about for just a moment was a condition that the developer contribute to some fire expenses. During our staff review and conversations at the Planning Commission, our fire chief has brought to our attention that the city is not currently equipped to fight a fire safely at a 7-story building. So there's a little bit of additional equipment and training involved in that, and so we requested a developer contribution to that effort. And we did put a maximum on that contribution. I believe the maximum is $12,500 based on estimates that the fire chief has received for that equipment and training. And then a couple of engineering comments related to water main and sewer, and a little bit more detail on the public amenities that will be provided as those are required in the PUD. Okay, so getting into the deviations that the developer is requesting here. Probably the largest one is density. As I mentioned, they're requesting 145 units per acre, where 50 was the original limit in the PUD.
When staff reviewed this, we looked at it in terms of whether this site was appropriate from a planning standpoint for this kind of density. Our conclusion is that it is, given the proximity to the Gold Line BRT station right across the street. It is also in close proximity to the highway and not near other single-family residential neighborhoods, which kind of lessens the impact. One of our big questions, and I know one of your questions and one from the Planning Commission as well, was can infrastructure handle this kind of density? And so we'll talk about the traffic study, but the summary is that the traffic study did prove that the planned road network in this area can handle the additional traffic. It actually looked at both this parcel and the one right to the south, which will be developed in a future phase. And so based on those, we feel that the density deviation is appropriate for this development. And I'm assuming I'm moving on to the height slide. Oh yeah, there we go. It's behind me now. All right, so the height request is going from 6 to 7 stories. The developer has provided some visualizations, which are in your packet. They were also presented at the Planning Commission. Those are to scale, and there are a few mitigating factors that lessen the impact of that extra story. The first is distance. When we looked at the views from the neighborhoods to the north, they're separated from this site by a couple of roads and a couple of developable sites, so that helps. There are a lot of existing trees in those neighborhoods already buffering them from Helmo and from Third, which help, and you can see those in the visualizations. Those are existing trees, not ones that will be planted by the developer. And there is also a developable site in between this one and that neighborhood that will that could be a 3 to 4 story building that will also help lessen that visual impact. And so again, staff recommended approval of that deviation, and the Planning Commission concurred. Parking. So this is a little bit of a unique parking ordinance. Most of the zoning districts in the city have a parking minimum. The BRT-related PUD districts have a parking maximum, and that's because because it's a transit-oriented district, the thought is that some of those trips that would normally occur by car will be taken up by transit. So less parking is required. Part of the reason that I wasn't here when the district was written, but in general, transit-oriented districts are trying to have less parking because there are other modes that will be used. In this case, the applicants are asking for a little bit more than that maximum. And part of the reason for their request is the restaurant that's on the site. They are requesting some close-by parking to attract folks from beyond the neighborhood to the resident. And so given that circumstance, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this deviation to go a little bit above the maximum. You can see on the site plan that they are proposing a temporary parking lot on the R6 parcel, so the parcel just to the south of where the main building would be built. And so part of our conversations with the applicant have been, when you go to develop that R6 parcel, you're going to have to take into account that parking plus whatever is required for a new development. So they are aware of that, and they're thinking about that. A couple of others, lighting, as I mentioned, this is required to be a 0 setback building. It's right up to the right-of-way. And because of the building mounted lighting right near the entrances, we're going to have a couple of spots where you're above your foot candle limit for lighting. The class 1 materials I mentioned before, 63% where 70 is required. Planning Commission recommended approval of that, and if you have questions on the materials, the applicant can address those and you can see them for yourself. Just a bit about the traffic study, and if you have questions about this, I will defer to the engineers in the room. But basically, a traffic study was conducted that accounts for the entire site, so not just the R5 parcel where this proposal is, but also the one to the south that they are planning on also eventually developing with multifamily residential. It was reviewed by the city engineer, and everyone concurred that the network can handle the proposed residential units. There was a little bit of ambiguity about where the turn lanes were, so we added that as a condition of approval. And it was also found to be consistent with the Gold Line improvements that are being proposed there. So with all of that, traffic levels will be acceptable, and so that helps with our analysis of this proposal. And finally, the noise variance. As I mentioned, this is not a variance from the noise ordinance that this site will be creating noise. This site will be receiving noise. The MPCA has maximum noise requirement or levels for residential sites near highways. In this case, they'll be over by 2.3 decibels, and that's just for the outdoor amenity areas and outside on folks' balconies that are facing the highway. Our engineering review determined that 3 decibels is just barely audible by the human ear, so this is not a significant deviation. There really aren't any possibility of mitigations either on this site, like building a berm or landscaping, because there's going to be more development here. So staff and the Planning Commission also recommended approval of that deviation. And that concludes my presentation of all the approvals tonight. I'd be happy to answer questions, and I know the applicant is here, and there's space for them as well.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron. Councilors, questions for Aaron?
I just want to clarify the parking spaces. You presented it a little different than I thought was in our packet.
Okay.
That they're going to allow 62 more spaces instead of saying maximum, because it said maximum 62. So that made it sound like they didn't have to do differently.
I apologize if that wording was a little tricky in the packet. No, the amount of parking, if we use the calculations in the Helmo PUD
I
ordinance.
like the wording here.
You like it here? Yeah. Basically, your ordinance has a maximum, and they are proposing to go above the maximum by 62 spaces.
okay.
That's the deviation, and that's why the Planning
Because the
Commission was supportive.
commissioners actually came up to me at the Planning Commission. You weren't there, Aaron.
Right.
They came up to me before and after and were concerned about the wording of that.
Okay,
So
yes. No, this is
This they would like,
above the maximum
Yes.
is what we're approving.
yes. So I just wanted that clarification. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Anything else?
No, not for me.
Councilmember Zabel?
Aaron, the landscape plan has a significant decrease in the number of trees required in this plan. Is that pretty much due to the sharp increase in density? There's just not going to be as much space around the building and with the 0 setbacks to accommodate those number of trees, or were our original numbers just way off?
I'm not sure what the original numbers are. They're not off too much now. They're pretty close to meeting our requirements now. We did make a condition that they add a few more on that southerly site. And again, one of the conversations that we're having is that if we're putting parking and landscaping on that southerly site, it's going to impact, it's kind of constraining their options for development of that site. But again, they're aware of it and are looking into it. Yes, the site is definitely space constrained. It meets all of the ordinance requirements otherwise, and they are putting trees pretty much as close as would be feasible to help for them to survive. And yes, they are accommodating some of that landscaping area on the southerly parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Councilors, anything else? Aaron, I've got a couple things.
Sure.
What's the plan for 4th Street upgrade? Is that,
You're talking about,
no?
No.
Go a little bit north, that one. No, go a little north further, yep.
that's
4th Street?
3rd Street.
Oh. So is there any plan for 4th Street? Do we have to worry about that, or is it in our normal CIP process that we'll upgrade that?
That's the street we're doing this year.
Yeah.
There you go.
4th
So it's this
Street.
year.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're doing it, yeah.
And then will both these other roads be constructed at the same time, the public roads, that one, and then the vertical one?
Yeah, that would definitely be part of the development agreement that we're requiring for this, that, yeah, you need both of those roads for this network to function with all of that density, so absolutely, yes.
Okay. That's it for now. Councilors, anything else? I see the applicants are here. Good evening. Please approach the podium and brag about your project and
I want you to pass around your samples.
because this is a very large project.
Yeah,
Very
yes, it is.
important to the community and to yourselves, and it's
Hi,
pretty-
my name's
it's very
Mike Salt.
impressive.
I'm the architect for this project. And we want to first thank you for allowing us to build this beautiful project. I think the site you created by doing that initial density study and all the analysis of how to make this a better site is what really pulled us in. And the communications with the city is what kind of locked us into doing this project in the site because it's such a perfect location and that you're building the bridge there, it really plays into what we want to do for our future for our company. So this particular building, I think, is a perfect example of what we think the future is for apartment living, and it's interactivity with the street that you have created for us to allow us to create an interactive type of development where the outside and the inside kind of come together, and we pull in all the people to both use the coffee shop we have in there, and then the restaurant, and then all the people in the building kind of working together with all that this site can provide. It was just a beautiful opportunity. So we think it's a great opportunity for the city and for us to create that next level of living that we think is possible in this area. And instead of Woodbury getting all the people, we can bring them up north and take advantage of what we're trying to provide. So we really enjoy this project. We can't wait to put it together, and we just thank you for allowing us to do it here.
Very good. Thank you. Councilors, questions or comments? Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? And there's a resolution in front of us. Could I have somebody make it, please?
I'll make a motion to waive reading and adopt resolution number 2022, approving the preliminary plat for the impact apartments located in the Helmo Station PUD with conditions outlined in the attached resolution.
Council Member Zabel, since this is such an important project, would you be willing to read the conditions?
Sure, give me 1 second.
Here you go. You got it?
Yeah, I got it. I just want to make sure I'm on the right one. All right, it's 8 of them. Is that right? Is that what you got? Or am I looking at the different one?
The preliminary plat has
All right,
5.
there we go.
Yeah.
All right, the following conditions. The applicant developer enter into a development agreement with the city that includes a phasing plan coordinating road and infrastructure installations. A combination of parkland dedication and/or park dedication fees be provided to the city per the 2021 fee schedule. This shall be included in the development agreement and received prior to the recording of the final plat. Include Outlot B of the Business Park Second Edition in the plat and combined with Outlot A. The resulting outlot shall be deeded to the city. Receive confirmation from the Gold Line Transit Group that the Helmo Avenue right-of-way is sufficient, and approval and recording of the final plat reflected in these conditions.
Thank you. I was going to ask one thing about timing, assuming that this goes well tonight, like it looks like it's going to. What's your timing for construction?
I'm Marie Dickover. I'm the construction manager for Norhart. Our timing, like, we'd like to break ground in May. We'd probably get the foundation and start framing towards the end of August, and then work on the phasing schedule as far as how it opens.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, councilors, can I have a motion then, please? This is for the,
Well, he
I
did
made
it.
a motion,
He
you
made
need a
the mo-
second.
can I have a second, please?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any conversation? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes as presented. Thank you. We have a second one.
I'll make a motion to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2022 approving the site plan for the impact apartments with the PUD deviations as proposed with conditions outlined in the attached resolution.
So is the motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as presented. Thank you. And there's a third one.
I'll make a
Wait.
Go ahead,
I'll
Colleen.
make a motion to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2022 approving the noise variation for the impact apartments.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as presented. Thank you. And thank you very much.
Yeah.
This will be really
Yeah.
neat.
Yep.
Very
Yes.
exciting.
Sounds like an exciting project.
Next item that we have up on our agenda is the temporary outdoor patios. Andy, are you going to lead us through this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. And since this has been before council, before in workshop, I'll be brief. Temporary outdoor patios is an opportunity for businesses to provide another option to serve their customers outdoors. This was popular during the COVID-19 pandemic, and although that has now been waning, there's still some comfort with people wanting to be eating outdoors, especially during the summertime, and also provide some flexibility to businesses that are more seasonal in nature. The ordinance before you is a demonstration for 2022 for a temporary outdoor patio ordinance. Staff does recommend that the city council implement the ordinance on a demonstration basis. The recommended fee structure would be $100, which is similar to other permits in the city, such as for booths and displays. The license application addresses compliance with noise ordinance, materials for the fencing and enclosure, and compliance with liquor license. Applicants would be required to submit a site plan for review of their license applications and ensure such things as emergency access are satisfied. At the end of the season, staff would report back about how many businesses decided to utilize the program, experiences with business that participated, any complaints, and make a recommendation on whether or not temporary outdoor patio ordinances would be on a permanent basis. And if approved here tonight, we could start accepting applications tomorrow, and then the ordinance would go in effect April 1st. Would be the first day you could have a temporary outdoor patio if people are interested, businesses are interested in that. And then the last day would be November 1st to clear out the outdoor patio. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the ordinance or the draft application.
Very good. Thank you, Andy. Counselor, is there anything for Andy? And we've had a number of conversations about this in a workshop, so this is nice to see this tonight. Counselors, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to waive reading and adopt resolution number 2022 approving the Chapter 9 ordinance amendment as written within the attached exhibit.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion is approved as presented. Thank you. We have another motion dealing with the summary publication.
Mr.
Or don't
Mayor, City Council, the next motion is to approve the summary publication. We need to have a formal vote of 4/5 on this for this ordinance change after the approval by the council. So that's what's before you.
Very good.
No further comment from me. Just up here.
He just likes that spot.
Yeah.
So can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2022 approving summary publication of an ordinance amending Chapter 9, amending the Code of Ordinances for the City of Oakdale, licenses and business regulations.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as presented. Thank you. Next up is time with our city attorney. And good evening.
Good evening. I don't have a report, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and just thank you for letting me be here today.
Just Dave Thompson is our city attorney. But you're-
Jim.
Wow, am I on
Been here,
tonight,
Yes,
aren't I?
been here a long time.
Just introduce yourself.
Of course, Rachel Tierney.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Counselors, got anything for Rachel? Thank you very much. Then we're going to go down to Ms. Volker's Administrator's Report.
You do have a resolution before you, and I would like to read some highlights because it's important, I think, for the public to understand this issue is ongoing for the city of Oakdale and many of our surrounding communities. The resolution before you is to support legislative efforts to ensure safe, sustainable, and a reliable water supply for Oakdale. And really what's going on is, I'll give you a little bit of a history here. The city does hold a water appropriation permit to draw water from the Prairie du Chien Jordan Aquifer, which feeds into White Bear Lake. This permit allows the city to provide safe water to residents, businesses, hospitals, schools, etc. On February 28, 2018, the DNR amended the city's water appropriation permit due to fluctuating lake levels on White Bear Lake and the resulting advocacy of homeowners that were concerned about sufficient lake levels for recreational activities on White Bear Lake. What followed then was a series of litigation. And in 2021, Ramsey County Court issued a court order basically illustrating that the DNR can amend our water appropriation permits. And thus, on February 7th, 2022, so just over a month ago, the DNR filed a letter based on that court order saying that they were prepared to limit the city's water appropriation permit to 55 gallons per person per day of water, which is a significant limitation, and that would affect, hospitals, schools, et cetera, in the city of Oakdale and anybody within that 5-mile radius, as determined by the court order from White Bear Lake. So as such, then we, cities and surrounding cities really, and Oakdale in particular, really need to do something about that. That's not appropriate. It is not acceptable, and it will not keep the health and safety of our residents in place with the sufficient water levels. Therefore, there is a dire threat to that, all of that, and so we are asking for this resolution so there is a possible legislative solution. And the legislative solution is to allow the DNR to revert back to water levels that we need for our permits in order to provide safe and reliable drinking water in Oakdale. Therefore, you do have the resolution in front of you so we can continue those efforts at the legislature. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Councilors, anything for Chris? My comment, and just correct me, because I've been wrong a number of nights, number of times tonight. But when Senator HADLEY presented the bill and I had a chance to testify with the city administrator from Hugo, the thing that struck me most about that bill was just the bill giving us time to bring people to the table who are actually affected by this judicial decree. So Oakdale hasn't had a chance to actually meet and negotiate at the table. The other cities who are infected, Lake Elmo, Hugo, have not had a chance to actually be at the table. So that was the most beneficial thing that I took out of Senator HADLEY's bill. So I'm glad it's here tonight for this resolution, which will assist the senators and the representatives to get this thing done. With that said, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to waive reading and adopt resolution number 2022 supporting legislative efforts to ensure a sustainable, safe, and reliable water supply for the city of Oakdale residents, businesses, schools, hospitals, and other public and private uses.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes as presented. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Anything else? Chris?
Oh,
Anything
no,
else?
sorry.
Okay.
I was on to the next thing.
So the next item on the agenda is council presentations. I think I'll start down on my left. Councilmember Zabel, anything?
Nothing from me.
Councilmember Swedberg.
Nothing tonight.
I also have nothing.
Nothing for
Councilmember
me.
Olson, Councilmember Ingebrigtson.
Nothing.
Very good. Then we're going to talk about a bid for a 2020 street striping contract.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Mayor and Council. So what you have before you, thank you, sorry, I wasn't ready for that one, is a request to engage with the contract. This was a 2022 street striping project, which is in our capital improvement plan and planned every year. And the amount with the contract is $14,423.50 with Farner Asphalt. And we have used them in the past. So that is the motion before you.
Council, is there any questions about this? Could I have a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor and the city administrator to sign and execute the 2022 street striping contract with Farner Asphalt in the amount of $14,423.50.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as presented. One of the last things on our agenda tonight is the summary of claims, the claim rosters. So in our packet and in front of us tonight is the claim rosters from March 5th, 2022 through March 18, 2022, in the total of $734,589.78. After you've had a chance to review, were there any questions about any of those charges? Could I have a motion then, please?
Motion to approve claims is presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the claims are approved as presented. Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good night.